Would you believe that a 6-year-old child with just a few cans of Coca-Cola and some leftover candy could begin a journey to becoming the richest man in the world? That's exactly how Warren Buffett started, and you won't believe what he did next. Warren Edward Buffett was born in 1930 in Omaha, Nebraska. He is widely known as the Oracle of Omaha. During the Great Depression, a time when America was not only in economic turmoil, but its faith in the future had also crumbled. In that setting, a young boy living in Omaha, Nebraska, began to observe the world with a different pair of eyes. From an early age, Buffett was obsessed with making money. Not because he wanted to spend it, but because he wanted to understand how money worked. At the age of 6, Warren bought 6 cans of Coca-Cola from his grandfather's store for 25 cents, then sold each for 5 cents. He made exactly 5 cents in profit. It sounds like nothing, but to young Buffett, every penny was a piece of a giant puzzle he was starting to solve. He didn't stop there. He collected beer bottle caps to exchange for cash, sold chewing gum, and even gathered used golf balls to resell to players near the local golf course. Once, he and a friend bought a broken pinball machine, fixed it, and placed it in a barber shop for rent, splitting the profit. At that time, Warren was only 10 years old. What made Buffett special was that he didn't just make money, he kept records. He wrote down every expense, every bit of profit, and every lesson he learned. He read every book on finance in the Omaha Public Library until the librarian had to point him to the adult section. At age 11, Buffett bought his first stock, Cities Service, at $38 per share. He panicked when the price dropped to $27 and felt relieved when it bounced back to $40, at which point he sold it. But afterward, the stock kept climbing, all the way up to $200. That rookie trade taught Buffett a lifelong lesson. Don't let emotions dictate actions. Let data and patience speak. At 13, he delivered newspapers. Every morning at 4 a.m., Warren would ride his bike for hours, delivering to over 100 customers, rain or shine. He made over $175 a week, more than $2,000 in today's money. With that money, Buffett bought stocks, invested in rental farmland, and slowly built his savings. At age 14, Buffett filed his first tax return and deducted $35 for the bicycle he used to deliver newspapers. Yes, you read that right. That 14-year-old kid understood personal finance and tax strategy better than most adults. He once said, "I always knew I was going to be rich. I just wasn't sure how soon." And indeed, Buffett reached his goal of earning his first $1 million by age 30, entirely through investing, saving, and treating time as his most valuable asset. What would you do if you met someone who could teach you how to turn $1 into $10? Warren Buffett met that person, and the lesson he received changed his life forever. At 19, Warren applied to Columbia Business School after learning that Benjamin Graham, legendary investor and author of The Intelligent Investor, was teaching there. Buffett had read Graham's book at age 17 and was deeply impressed by the philosophy of value investing. Graham believed the stock market was like a friend named Mr. Market, who knocks on your door every day offering to buy or sell his shares at different prices. Some days, Mr. Market is cheerful and offers sky-high prices. Other days, he's gloomy and sells at bargain rates. The wise investor, Graham taught, doesn't act based on Mr. Market's emotions, but based on the true value they've calculated. Buffett absorbed that mindset like skin absorbing the monsoon. He no longer saw stocks as gambling chips or flashing tickers. Instead, what does this company actually do? How much money do they make? How much could they make in 10 years? And why is the market pricing it wrong today? At Columbia, Buffett wasn't just Graham's best student, he became his most devoted fan. After graduating, he applied to work at Graham Newman, but was rejected multiple times. Refusing to give up, Buffett kept writing letters until finally Graham said yes. Those years working under Graham forged a steel principle in Buffett's mind. only buy a stock when its market price is below its intrinsic value and wait patiently for the market to wake up. However, Buffett slowly realized something. Graham's philosophy had its limits. Graham focused heavily on numbers, but paid little attention to business quality or leadership. Buffett, on the other hand, began to see that some companies, while not cheap, had extremely durable business models. Investing long-term in them could yield far greater returns than hunting for discount deals. He started to think differently. And when he left Graham Newman and returned to Omaha, Buffett carried with him a priceless toolkit, the analytical rigor of a mathematician and the instincts of a business strategist. Around this time, Buffett founded the Buffett Partnership, a small investment firm managed by himself, funded by friends, family, and his own savings. With just under $200,000 in capital, he began applying his own version of value investing, seeking undervalued stocks with massive long-term potential. And the result? Within a few short years, Buffett Partnership achieved over 30% annual returns, beating every major Wall Street fund. That's when people began to notice the small-town investor doing the impossible quietly. Buffett once said, "My investment philosophy is so simple you could write it on the back of a matchbook. The hard part is, people always think they're smarter than it." Sometimes the cheapest looking stock ends up being the most expensive because it costs you time, opportunity, and patience. Warren Buffett once fell into that very trap, and that stumble changed his entire investment philosophy. In the late 1950s, the Buffett Partnership was booming. Using Graham-style tactics, Buffett hunted stocks with low PE ratios, high book value, or mountains of cash that exceeded their market cap. Bargain deals were everywhere. Then came one fateful investment, Berkshire Hathaway, a dying textile company. On the surface, Berkshire looked like a steal. It owned large fixed assets, generated steady cash flow, and was ignored by the market. Buffett slowly bought shares, accumulating control. But the problem was clear. The textile industry was dying. No matter how good the management was, the business model no longer worked. Buffett realized he was wasting capital on a company with no future. He later admitted it was the worst investment of his career. Ironically, it also became the most important turning point. Instead of walking away, Buffett repurposed Berkshire. He began using it as a holding company, acquiring profitable, reliable businesses. Berkshire Hathaway slowly transformed from a forgotten textile mill into the largest investment empire in history. This was also when he met his intellectual soulmate, Charlie Munger. Charlie wasn't like Graham. He didn't obsess over cheap stocks. He obsessed over quality. Munger believed it's better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a mediocre one at a bargain. That thinking blew Buffett's mind open. From that point on, he stopped chasing cheap deals. Instead, he sought out businesses with durable competitive advantages, strong brands, clear models, great management, and room to grow. That shift completely reshaped his portfolio. Coca-Cola, See's Candies, The Washington Post, American Express, not cheap stocks, but ones that generated consistent cash flow for decades. Buffett once warned, "The biggest trap for investors is thinking they're buying cheap, when in reality, they're buying risk." From that point on, Buffett's investment philosophy took on a new definition. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. What happens when you stop buying stocks and start buying entire companies? Warren Buffett did just that, and his financial game would never be the same again. In the 1970s, while the stock market was swinging wildly, Buffett moved forward with a radically different mindset. Instead of buying stocks, buy entire businesses. No longer just an investor reading financial reports, Buffett now became the actual owner of companies, operating day to day. He cared about leadership teams, company culture, how employees were treated, the potential for market expansion, and above all, honesty and financial discipline. He bought See's Candies, a seemingly small candy company with a powerful brand in California. Each year, See's generated millions in profit from very little invested capital. Buffett called it a money printing machine, and he still owns it today. Then came the Washington Post, an iconic American media outlet. Buffett didn't just invest, he formed a close friendship with Katharine Graham, the paper's leader. He helped the Post through financial troubles and, in return, learned firsthand how a strong business is built from within. Buffett once said, "I don't need to manage the company. I just need to find someone I trust and let them steer the ship. My job is to pick the right boat to begin with." Unlike traditional investment firms, Berkshire subsidiaries never forced Berkshire subsidiaries to follow quarterly reporting pressure or short-term strategies. He gave them full autonomy as long as they remained profitable and ethically sound. Because of this, Berkshire Hathaway became a dream home for entrepreneurs who didn't want to sell their companies to soulless corporate giants. For Buffett, a great company is one that runs itself, doesn't need micromanagement, and produces stable cash flow for decades. No need for explosive growth or financial tricks, just stability and consistency. That mindset helped him avoid many mistakes other investors made. While others chased trends, he observed. While others panicked, he bought. While the market went crazy over tech, he turned to candy, milk, and newspapers. Buffett once told Harvard students, "Invest in what you understand. If you can't draw the business model on a small piece of paper, don't put your money in it." That simple, patient, and highly effective approach turned Buffett from a smart investor into a builder of empires. When everyone else ran from the market, what did Warren Buffett do? He calmly opened his wallet and bought. That wasn't recklessness. It was the peak of understanding. In 1973, the U.S. stock market plunged into a severe downturn. Oil prices spiked, inflation surged, unemployment spread, and Wall Street was swept by panic selling. Countless companies became severely undervalued. Investor sentiment was pitch black. But in the middle of the storm, Warren Buffett remained incredibly clear-headed. In his shareholder letter that year, he wrote, "We don't feel uneasy. On the contrary, we see many opportunities. If you like bargain shopping, today's market is paradise." This is Buffett's timeless spirit. Buy when others are fearful, sell when others are greedy. He didn't get swept into the chaos. He saw a crisis as a giant sale, where high-quality businesses were being mispriced simply because of temporary fear. He bought the Washington Post stock at just 25% of its intrinsic value. That investment would later grow many times over. He also increased his stake in GIHC, an insurance company with a solid model that investors had abandoned due to short-term fears. Those weren't bets. Buffett wasn't bottom fishing. He spent months reading financial reports, analyzing industries, matching economic cycles to ensure he was buying real value at a safe discount. One special trait of Buffett, he never used debt leverage in big deals. While others borrowed to invest, Buffett hoarded cash. So when the market collapsed, he had money ready, while others were trapped or bankrupt. That's when people realized Buffett didn't get rich by being smarter than others, but by controlling his emotions better than others. When stocks fell 30 to 40%, he didn't panic. During recessions, he didn't wait for recovery signals to act. He understood the market, and more importantly, he understood himself. He once said, "You don't have to be the smartest. You just have to avoid the dumbest behaviors when everyone else is panicking." This ability, called anti-cyclical psychology, was the secret weapon that helped him build his legendary investment career. And that was just the beginning. Decades later, he would do it again, on a much larger scale. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit like a tsunami. Giants like Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Merrill Lynch all collapsed. The market was in chaos. People pulled money from banks, and companies laid off workers in droves. The entire U.S. economy stood on the edge of collapse. In that chaos, Warren Buffett, now a living financial icon, remained steady. When big banks were starving for capital and had lost market confidence, he became the lender of last resort. But not just to help. He demanded extremely favorable terms in exchange for the trust that came with the Buffett name. One legendary deal was with Goldman Sachs, one of the world's top investment banks. While its stock plummeted over liquidity fears, Buffett invested $5 billion in preferred shares, paying 10% annual dividends, plus rights to buy common shares later at a major discount. The deal instantly created a ripple effect. The market saw it as a sign of confidence. Goldman stock rebounded, and just a few years later, Buffett made billions in profit. He also invested in General Electric, GE, a symbol of American industry struggling with the credit crisis. Similar to Goldman, he offered capital with high returns and stock warrants. What impressed people wasn't just the money, but his timing. While everyone was fearful, he stayed calm and saw the long-term value in these organizations, business machines temporarily out of breath. One of his most famous quotes at the time, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." Buffett didn't just say it, he lived it. And those moves not only earned him massive returns, but they further cemented his image as the financial father of America. Many experts called him the man who saved Wall Street with cash and calmness. But Buffett didn't see himself as a hero. To him, it was simply a once-in-a-lifetime chance to buy pieces of the best businesses in the world at unthinkably low prices. While Wall Street went wild for tech and billion-dollar unicorns, Buffett quietly bought candy, milk, and hamburgers. It might sound odd, but it was those boring investments that earned him billions. When the world was caught in the dot-com craze of the early 2000s, chasing startups and tech dreams, Warren Buffett shocked many, even earned ridicule for staying away. Yet history would show he understood something most others missed. When tech bubble bursted, millions lost their investments. Meanwhile, Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway came through the storm unscathed. It seemed as though he had a secret sense of doom, but in reality, it was just a precious knowledge born from decades of reading financial reports. In Buffett's eyes, companies without a clear profit model, a long financial track record, or easy-to-understand operations simply don't qualify for his investment. Instead of chasing trends, he returned to what he had always loved: businesses with a simple model, everyday products, and loyal customers. One of the most famous deals was when Berkshire Hathaway acquired Dairy Queen, a well-known American chain of ice cream and fast food. Then came See's Candies, a traditional candy brand with exceptionally high profit margins, and later BNSF Railway, an old-school railroad company that plays a crucial role in America's supply chain. The pinnacle was the investment in Coca-Cola, the world's largest beverage company. At the time Berkshire bought it in 1988, many believed Coca-Cola's glory days were over, that it had become too common to grow any further. But Buffett didn't buy it for growth. He bought it for stable cash flow, an irreplaceable brand, and pricing power. He once even said, "If you place a coin in front of a 6-year-old and a can of Coca-Cola, the kid will pick the Coke. That's when you know you're investing in the right thing." To Buffett, the magic lies in the utterly ordinary. The simpler and easier to understand, the more sustainable. Imagine investing in a company that builds blockchain AI software integrated with the metaverse. It sounds impressive, but you can't explain how they actually make money. Meanwhile, See's Candies just sells candy. Clear, simple, high margins, and customers come back every holiday season. Buffett doesn't buy dreams. He buys real money, real cash flow, and long-term sustainability. And the surprising truth is, that strategy is what built the largest fortune over time. Moreover, Buffett emphasizes the power of brand. Companies like Coca-Cola, Dairy Queen, and See's Candies have value far beyond their tangible assets because consumers have emotional connections to their products. A business that makes customers smile, come back, and tell their friends is a great business, even if the product is just an ice cream or a soda. Would you dare to hold a stock for 40 years? Buffett not only dares, he believes that the longer you hold, the wealthier you become. While most investors flip quarterly, yearly, or at least set goals like sell once it's up 50%, Warren Buffett takes the opposite route. Hold forever. One of his most famous quotes is, "My favorite holding period is forever." It may sound naive, but it's actually a deeply strategic philosophy because Buffett doesn't invest in stocks. He invests in businesses. Once he identifies a company with durable competitive advantages, trustworthy management, and strong, stable profitability, he doesn't need to cash out because the value and cash flows keep coming in. Take the Coca-Cola deal. Berkshire Hathaway began buying shares in 1988. To this day, they still hold nearly all of those shares, over 35 years. Every year, the company receives hundreds of millions of dollars in dividends without selling a single share. Or American Express. Buffett bought in when the company faced a crisis of trust in the 1960s. Many feared the brand couldn't recover from a minor scandal. But Buffett believed in the power of brand and consumer loyalty. He held Amex stock for decades, and it became one of Berkshire Hathaway's most profitable investments. The point isn't just holding stocks for a long time. It's that Buffett always chooses businesses he's comfortable entrusting his wealth to for life. There aren't many companies like that in the world, so when he finds one, he holds tight. This strategy has one powerful effect: compound interest. When you keep selling, you pay taxes, fees, and constantly need to find new investments. But when you hold, returns get reinvested tax-free for years, and your initial capital grows exponentially. Einstein once called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, and Buffett is living proof. Here's a simple example. If you invest $10,000 at a 15% annual return, after 40 years, you'll have over $2.6 million, but only if you leave it untouched. Buffett doesn't just talk about this, he lives by it throughout his entire career. And that's why, even though he only invests in slow and unsexy industries, he became one of the wealthiest people on the planet simply by believing in time and consistency. Can you imagine a legendary investor who never lets a flashing chart affect his decisions? Buffett once described the market as a crazy guy who knocks on your door every day offering to buy or sell a share of your business at wildly different prices, often totally irrational. And you have the right to ignore him. He believes the wise are not those who react to Mr. Market, but those who take advantage of his madness when it appears. Think back to the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s. Everyone jumped into tech stocks, with prices soaring hundreds of percent in weeks, even though many companies hadn't earned a single dollar. Buffett was seen as outdated, as someone who didn't understand the times. But he stuck to his principles. Don't invest in what you don't understand. When the bubble burst in 2000, those who rode the wave lost everything. Meanwhile, Buffett remained steady and continued buying the businesses he trusted at prices cheaper than ever. His consistency forces us to ask, why do you invest? To beat the market or to own a piece of a great business? Buffett chooses the latter. To him, the market is not a casino and not a place for emotional thrills. He once said, "If you're not willing to hold a stock for 10 years, don't even think about holding it for 10 minutes." Even when the market crashes 1,000 points in a day, he calmly reads the paper, eats his burger, and waits for real opportunities to arise. In Buffett's view, patience is the most powerful weapon an investor can have. And ignoring the crowd isn't just a motto, it's the core of long-term success. When the whole world runs away in fear, Buffett steps in, smiles, and buys up entire economic monuments at giveaway prices. In 2008, Wall Street trembled. The global financial system teetered. Giants like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns collapsed in days. Everyone was panic selling, banks froze credit, and markets free fell. But amidst the chaos, one man still poured in money: Warren Buffett. He didn't just invest, he invested in companies no one thought could be vulnerable. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, General Electric. How did he dare? Why wasn't he afraid? To Buffett, he doesn't invest according to market sentiment. He invests based on the real value of the business, and more importantly, he understands human psychology. When crowds are gripped by fear, they're willing to sell valuable assets at dirt cheap prices. That's when the calm and clear-eyed can buy up monuments for mere pennies. Example, at the peak of the 2008 crisis, Buffett invested $5 billion into Goldman Sachs in exchange for preferred shares with high dividends, plus warrants to buy common stock in the future at bargain prices. The result? When markets recovered, that investment returned over $3 billion in profit. But it's not just about gains and losses. This was a lesson in courage, strategy, and deep understanding. Buffett once said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." The financial crisis was a disaster for many, but for Buffett, it was a massive clearance sale, where everything was 70, 80, or even free if you had the courage to see the true value beneath the panic. And here's the key. He didn't invest in the cheapest companies. He invested in the best companies, but temporarily undervalued by a fearful market. Companies with strong foundations, powerful brands, and efficient operations will recover. And when they do, profits won't just return, they'll explode. Buffett doesn't predict the market. He waits for the market to act emotionally, and then he responds with reason. That's how he turns crises into a launchpad for wealth. Did you know Buffett owns a money printing machine that's not stocks? It's insurance companies, his true golden goose. When most people think of investing, they picture stocks, bonds, or real estate. But for Buffett, one of his most powerful weapons is insurance. Why? Because insurance isn't just about profiting from risk. It also brings an incredibly valuable gift: float. The temporary cash flow that insurance companies hold before they need to pay claims. To make it simple, imagine this. You buy car insurance and pay $500 a year. The insurance company collects that money but doesn't have to pay anything yet. As long as no accident happens, they can freely use that money to invest and earn returns. Now multiply that by millions of customers. The result? Insurance companies hold tens of billions of dollars. No borrowing, no interest, and all completely legal. Buffett saw this early. Back in the 1960s, he began acquiring insurance firms like National Indemnity, and later Geico, one of the largest auto insurers in America. These companies not only made a profit, they gave Buffett a massive pool of investment capital, virtually free. He once explained, "Float is like having other people give you piles of cash to invest and not asking for it back right away." And if you're a world-class investor, that's a money printing machine. Over the decades, Buffett used float from his insurance businesses to buy stocks like Coca-Cola, American Express, Moody's, Apple. In other words, he used other people's money to buy great assets, then earned dividends and reinvested them. He went even further, optimizing how his insurance companies operated to stay both safe and steadily growing, avoiding risky derivatives or speculative reinsurance. Buffett once said, "I love the insurance business. It allows me to invest at a pace no one else can, without risking my own money. That's why Berkshire Hathaway today isn't just an investment firm, it's a self-funding machine, compounding profits on top of profits. A financial empire built not on borrowed leverage, but on trust, mathematics, and the psychology of fear. While the rest of the world constantly shifts strategies, Buffett has stayed loyal to a core philosophy for over 60 years, and that's what helped him win. In a world of new ways to get rich, new fintech, new fads, Buffett stands firm. And the shocking part is, he didn't need to change to become great. It's because he didn't change that he became a legend. Here's the essence of Buffett's investing over decades. Buy businesses with durable competitive advantages. Buy when the price is below intrinsic value. Hold long enough for compounding to work. Avoid what you don't understand. And above all, avoid debt, avoid leverage, avoid greed. Sounds simple. But sticking to these rules for decades, through temptations, market pressures, and billions at stake, is not easy. Remember 2021, when Bitcoin and crypto were skyrocketing and people became millionaires overnight? Buffett didn't flinch. He once said bluntly, "I don't invest in things that don't produce value. You can pass it from person to person, but it doesn't create anything." Took off, when NFTs boomed, when AI hype dominated, when meme stocks like GameStop surged 1,000%, Buffett quietly kept reading financial reports, meeting CEOs, and buying real businesses. He stayed loyal, not just to his investment philosophy, but to his pace of life. Every day, Buffett spends 5 to 6 hours reading. No packed meetings, no press events, no social media. He doesn't even use a smartphone. When asked why he doesn't chase technology, he smiled. "I don't need to know everything. I just need to know a few things and use them well." That's the philosophy of someone who knows sustainability doesn't come from constant change. It comes from doing the right things long enough. In a world that shifts by the minute, Buffett's refusal to change is what made him exceptional. Here's something interesting. When asked what makes him most proud, he didn't mention profits or his massive wealth. He simply said, "I'm proud that in my entire life, I never violated my principles." If you understand the power of compounding, it'll change how you live, how you invest, and how you think. Buffett didn't just understand it, he lived it. He once said something simple, almost like a message to humanity. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. That's not just a catchy quote. It's the compass that guided him to build Berkshire Hathaway. Imagine you invest $1,000 at 10% return. After 1 year, $1,100. After 2 years, $1,210. After 20 years, over $6,700. Leave it untouched for 50 years, nearly $117,000. The magic isn't in the numbers. It's in time and patience. Buffett started investing at age 11. He always practiced buying and holding instead of constantly trading like modern investors. A classic example is Coca-Cola. Buffett bought shares in 1988 for $1.3 billion, over 6% of the entire company. Buffett has walked away from hundreds of money-making opportunities just because he didn't trust the people behind them. To him, investing isn't about numbers, it's about people. In the investing world, most people obsess over balance sheets, PE ratios, ROE, revenue growth. But for Buffett, one of the biggest deciding factors lives outside the spreadsheet. It's the people. He often says, "When you buy a business, You're not just buying the factory or product, you're buying the people running it. And that belief isn't just theory.
With Buffett, a leader's character matters just as much as their ability, because character doesn't change, while skills can be learned. He looks for people who are humble, honest, and eager to learn, then gives them a remarkable level of autonomy. Berkshire Hathaway is one of the rare conglomerates where its subsidiaries operate almost completely independently, as long as they stay ethical and perform well. That allows Buffett to avoid micromanaging every number and still trust that the business is heading in the right direction. And above all, the most important rule: Buffett never invests in people he doesn't understand or trust. No flashiness, no lofty promises, just honesty, dedication, and a firm handshake. Warren Buffett once lost billions from a single bad decision, but he didn't make excuses. Instead, he put the mistake right at the top of his shareholder letter. Mistakes are every investor's nightmare, but Buffett, he doesn't deny them. He doesn't hide them. He doesn't justify them. He faces them. One of the clearest examples, his investment in Dexter Shoe Company in 1993. It was once a respected American shoe brand. Buffett paid over $400 million in Berkshire stock, not cash, to acquire it. At first, everyone thought it was a smart move, but within a few years, competition from Asia overwhelmed the industry, and Dexter collapsed. The investment wasn't just a loss, it cost billions in potential value, since Buffett used stock instead of cash. And what did he do? In his next shareholder letter, Buffett didn't sugarcoat it. He wrote plainly, "My biggest mistake. If we had used cash instead of stock, we would have retained billions in value." No blaming the market, no blaming partners, just one simple truth: I misjudged it. To Buffett, owning a mistake and learning from it matters more than protecting an image. He once wrote a timeless line in a shareholder letter: "We will make mistakes. When we do, we will tell you the truth, explain what happened, and do our best not to repeat it." And it wasn't just Dexter. Buffett missed out on Google because he didn't fully understand how it made money. He also avoided Amazon for nearly 2 decades, believing Jeff Bezos operated too far outside traditional investing logic. And when Berkshire finally bought Apple, it became one of their biggest winners ever. But Buffett admitted, "I should have bought it sooner." What makes people respect Buffett isn't just that he's rich. It's that he's brutally honest about his own failures. In a world of finance full of people shifting blame, citing market conditions, or unforeseeable risks, Buffett takes the biggest share of responsibility. He once said, "I'm the captain. When the ship tilts, I'm the first one accountable." And that transparency is exactly why millions of shareholders have trusted him for decades, even through the worst downturns. Warren Buffett once said, "I can buy anything I want, but I don't need anything." So what does a man like that really live for? Buffett, worth hundreds of billions and one of the greatest investors in history, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958. It cost less than $32,000 at the time. No luxury cars, no vacation mansions, no private jets for himself. Every morning, he drives his old car to McDonald's and chooses his breakfast based on how the market feels that day. If the market looks grim, he gets the $2.61 combo. If things are going well, he splurges on the $3.17 combo. It sounds like a joke, but that's the real Buffett. Because to him, money isn't the goal. It's a result of doing the right thing, investing wisely, and living with integrity. Buffett once said, "You measure your worth by how many people genuinely love you." That's why he stays close to longtime friends, like Charlie Munger, his partner of 60-plus years, and Bill Gates, his friend in cards, lunches, and philanthropy. And one remarkable thing, he has pledged nearly all of his wealth to charity. In 2006, Buffett announced he would donate 99% of his fortune, mostly to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and several other organizations. He didn't set up a Warren Buffett Foundation. He didn't want his name carved in gold. He simply wanted to help those who truly need it. In an interview, he once said, "If you're lucky enough to be born at the right time, in the right place, you should use that luck to help others get the same chance." And that's exactly how he views his own success, as a kind of lottery ticket that not everyone gets. So instead of keeping it all for himself, he gives nearly everything back. That's what makes Warren Buffett not just a legend in investing, but a symbol of humility, humanity, and integrity.
Buffett is also not afraid to sit still for an entire year if he doesn't see a truly attractive opportunity. He is not tempted by hot stocks, doesn't chase rumors, and isn't worried about missing out. That's why Berkshire Hathaway holds hundreds of billions of dollars in cash, always ready for the hunting season when a crisis strikes. He once said, "I can sit on cash for years, not investing a single dollar, just to wait for the right opportunity." The chair that Buffett sits in is not one of leadership. It's one of observation. And he always advises young investors, learn to wait. Act less, but act at the right moment. In a world where everyone suffers from FOMO, constantly driven to act, earn, and win, Buffett chooses to do nothing, and that is exactly how he wins.